Hi, good evening. My name is Tennille Benton and you're watching with Cascade Sports. We're here today with the Dewberry family. We're here with Annie, Mr. and Mrs. Troy, and Kimberly to highlight an incident that, even though this has affected her, may affect many people, and it's possibly being overlooked or snubbed by the Kansas City All-Metro selection team. We're going to get into that a little bit further. We also have Calvin Wainwright here with us, and we have Mr. Timmons and his son. And they're also going to talk about some things, some problems, some solutions, and maybe the accountability, things we can do to prevent this from happening in the future. Whose responsibility is it to keep this from happening so that, you know, we don't have this in the future? Calvin?
Good evening. I'm Calvin Wainwright, and I'm co-chair with the Concerned Clergy Youth and Education Task Force. And I'm here on behalf of the youth here in Kansas City. We're gathered here today to speak about a student athlete from Lincoln College Prep that was recognized nationally by the McDonald All-American basketball team, but what was not recognized by the local All-Metro nominating committee. And who are these people? Annie Dewberry is a student athlete that is a senior honor roll student that happens to play real good basketball in the Interscholastic League right here in Kansas City, Missouri. We know that our district and our league is looked down upon negative things that all school districts deal with, but always seem to make the front page news when it happens right in our district. Miss Dewberry is a shining star, and there are many more stars in the Kansas City, Missouri and Kansas City, Kansas district that we never hear about. Miss Dewberry shines in the classroom and on the court. But the big question is, why was she overlooked locally? A national honor from the McDonald Corporation and nothing from her own hometown. Year after year, the inner city youth get looked over, and we feel enough is enough. Kansas City, Missouri and Kansas City, Kansas have student athletes that are just as good, and in some areas better than our expanded metro area. Our metro area used to be Kansas City, Missouri, Kansas City, Kansas, Grandview, Overland Park, North Kansas City, and Independence. Now we done reached over to Richmond, Missouri, and Platte County, and all that. But you have a shining star right here in Kansas City that is overlooked. Enough is enough. At one time, you know, we can look right here in the city, and I know the Kansas City Star, they can look out of their building and see Kansas City Lincoln College Preparatory School where Annie attends. Enough is enough. It's time to be fair. Our students right here in the metropolitan area, in the inner city, they need to be looked at also.
That is very great, Calvin. What I want to talk about, though, are some of these accolades, because this really is a shining star here. 3.6 unweighted GPA. She's played basketball all 4 years. She started off 4 years. As a freshman, she was all district. As a sophomore, she was all conference. As a junior, she was all conference first team, all tournament first team, all district first team with Penn Valley, IL player of the year. As a senior, she has been the same as all of the above, plus the Grain Valley all tournament first team and the McDonald's All-American nominee. So how is it that you have somebody so wonderful from Missouri and you also have players equally as good in Kansas City, Kansas, and nobody? How does that happen? Parents, how does that happen?
I think it just shows a lack, what I feel is a lack of respect for the Interscholastic League in the Kansas City, Missouri School District. That's the only thing that I can really think of from a personal standpoint, because the Interscholastic School League does not get any publication from Kansas City Star, Metro Sports, or anything that we see. You see every time on looking at the paper, you see the Blue Springs, Platte County, Bonner, whatever, on TV and Metro Sports, Time Warner Cable Sports Channel, they say now. There are no Interscholastic League games unless they're playing down at the Sprint Center and playing somebody else. And that's the only way that the Interscholastic League gets any publication.
So who do we hold accountable? Anybody feel free to jump in. Who do we hold accountable?
Well, I'd like to say first that, you know, you can argue for days whether or not the Kansas City Star has an obligation to come into the inner city and start asking questions about who's the best or the brightest. But we know for sure who does have an obligation, and that would be the schools, the school that she attends. You begin there with the coach, and then it moves up to the athletic director of the school in particular, and then from there it would move up to administration within the building. Beyond that, you would go to the Kansas City School District's athletic director, and so forth. You move upward with that accountability.
Now, do you feel that it should be mandatory for coaches to be a member of certain organizations in order to participate?
Well, I think it goes without saying that if a coach is not mandated into that type of an obligation, you can't really expect them to do it. I mean, it hasn't been done for the last 25 years. If you're not, say for instance, an Anthony Peeler, someone who's just obviously NBA bound, the camera's not going to come looking at you. So, you know, you have to be proactive and promote your own children. And it really doesn't make sense for someone to be presiding over children and supposed to be looking out for them, but not proactively advocating for them and bringing attention to them.
Right, to ensure that they're successful. Thank you so much, Mr. Timmons. Now, your son, I believe, also attends Lincoln, correct?
Correct.
Also, with this situation happening to her, how does that ultimately trickle down and affect your son?
Well, I mean, I have no choice as a parent but to look at it and say, if it's happened to her, it could happen to my child.
Exactly.
And I think that's the only reasonable perspective you can have, and every other parent out there should think the same thing.
Exactly. And this is something that I want to pose. How is it that I'm the best, literally one of the best in the country, and I'm not recognized in my hometown? Because that would make me feel that maybe I'm not worthy enough, I'm not good enough. I would think that that might take the wind out of my sails and possibly keep me from becoming the best because I'm not being recognized. How do we, even if we have students who are not recognized, keep them motivated and say, you are the best, you are valuable, I don't care if they're not looking at you? What do we do?
Well, I think that I agree with Mr. Timmons that it starts from the top. And, you know, it starts at the top of her school, but it also starts at the top of the Kansas City, Missouri School District as far as promoting athletics, period. Athletics can be another way to further yourself as a student. I mean, you have to have a classroom, but athletics can be another way for you to get to college, to better yourself in the future. And if the Kansas City, Missouri School District does not seem or value athletics as much as they do classroom work, we're not going to be able to self-promote like Mr. Timmons was talking about. It's not all about just the classroom. There's other avenues. Of course, you have to make the grades, but athletics can be just as valuable to get a kid out of a situation and into a better situation and into a higher education. Also, it's not just about books.
Athletics teach you so much more even that above and beyond the classroom. You learn leadership skills. You learn teamwork. You learn self-discipline through athletics. And to be an athlete and have to study, they're actually even, in my mind, they're even more self-disciplined.
I agree with you. Someone told me that I'm not a team player because I never played sports. And I'm really starting to agree with them because I was an only child and I really, even now, I think sometimes lack discipline and organizational skills. Something I really want to talk about here because it's really something when we look at this grade point average. It's not like we're talking about somebody that's missed 20 days of school and only has a 2.5 GPA. She has obviously worked hard to be the best, not only in athletics, but as well as academics. Can we, if possible, prevent this from happening again next year with someone who has this type of ranking? How do we make sure that she is not overlooked or anyone else like her is overlooked in the future when she clearly has so much to offer? How is it that she can be recognized nationally, but nobody here knows her name?
Well, you know, they know her name, but they go around. They went around her. You know, but how can you overlook those things right there? You know, that's a big question. And I've talked to the director of the sports department down at the Star, and it's an oversight. You know, but then even
but it keeps being an oversight, right? Even
on the listing as a McDonald nominee, she was from Montana and not Missouri. You know, so how can you get MO messed up with MT? You know, so there's a lot of things that, you know, when it comes to inner city young people, and I'm gonna say black kids, there's a big overlook because there's so many negative things, and maybe they got caught up in the negative things that are happening right here in our district, and then you have an opportunity to put something positive on the front page, and it doesn't happen.
Is this because of politics?
You really want to go there, don't you?
I really want to go
You
there.
know, with the concerned clergy, we have some village fires, and racism is one of the things that we're praying about. Racial reconciliation, and there's a lot of things that just because I live in Overland Park, that puts me on a different plane. But still, we have good families right here in the metropolitan. Well, can I say metropolitan? Because in the Kansas City urban core, we have good parents. We have good parents. We have kids that live with mom and daddy. We have kids that make good grades. Yes, we have some knuckleheads out there that are doing unworthy things. But when you have somebody that is just as good or even better than the first team or second team, most definitely better than the
third team
honorable mention. You know, and then, did you start in the All-Star game?
No, but that was a whole, we played each other to start. It's not like the coaches picked. We just had a scrimmage to see who was going to start.
Yeah, but the negative things get exposed on the big picture. Positive things, we'll talk about it up under the table. You know, we don't want to hear the positive things, but we want to hear the negative things. And this right here, it hit me at the core because in my day, in 1971, we had 3 guys from the IL made the All-Metro team. We had 2 guys from the Kansas City, Kansas side. 5 players from the inner cities of both cities made the All-Metro team. Wow. You know, and now, here it is 2014, you don't get one kid, male or female, to be on the All-Metro team. That's crazy.
Can I interrupt something? Is it, and this is just a question, would it be safe to say that if you weren't in an urban area, but if you were perhaps in a Platte City, Blue Springs, or Lee Summit, that this would not even be an issue?
That is correct.
Well, I thank God that this family right here stayed home.
Yes.
They stayed here because I'm quite sure the Bishop Miages and the St. Thomas Aquinas and the Zions,
Lee Summit
all
High.
them, I'm quite sure they were trying to get her. And because I know she competes with them during the summer. You compete very well too, don't you?
Yes.
Well, I think it's one of those things that the Kansas City, Missouri School District, right or wrong, gets a lot of bad publicity. But as a family, we have supported the Kansas City, Missouri School District. She has argued people up and down about the good things about the Kansas City, Missouri School District. When she talks to other families and they start talking about bad things about the Kansas City, Missouri School District or wanting to leave, or people thinking between Lincoln or St. Teresa, and she always is talking about the benefits and the pluses, not just about athletics, but also academics. And there are people who want to promote the good things in Kansas City, Missouri School District, but we just don't get an opportunity to put the good news out there as much as possible. When there is, and this is a perfect example, when there is an opportunity to put good news out there about the Kansas City, Missouri School District, it wasn't taken advantage of. And it's not, like you say, not the Star's responsibility, but it sure would have been nice for them to take that. I mean, it was laying right there for them to take that opportunity to put something good about the Kansas City, Missouri School District for once, so they won't be looked at as always talking about negative stuff.
What are solutions? What are solutions to the problem?
You're looking at me.
Anybody can take the floor.
You know, I just look at fair game, and if you put our coaches in the right position and with the right mindset, I think all things are possible. If we make whoever hired the coaches, you know, principal, athletic director, whomever, make them accountable, you know, for our student athletes beyond the season, that makes it better. If you have somebody that's playing AAU, don't downgrade the AAU students, athletes, because that's where they get most of their recognition anyway. And when you have somebody on that caliber, no, it's no way she should be overlooked.
Right. And if I might add something, I think that we really need to have a serious discussion about the importance of athletics. She alluded to it earlier. Athletics are another avenue to propel a child to a higher education. And it just can't be overlooked. And whenever you do overlook a child getting recognized for their accomplishments, you provide a disincentive for the next kid
Yes.
to just ignore that opportunity to go
Yeah,
to the
because
next
if you
level.
say she's that good and they're not helping her, then why would somebody help me?
Right.
And it's not just an avenue to a higher education, it is an education.
Yeah.
Athletics are an education in and of themselves,
That is
if
true.
you take advantage of all the opportunities within them.
Okay, I just want to say something just because I'm here. I just want to say that this is not just about me. And I don't want to just come here and say that I'm complaining because I didn't make the team. I'm thinking about all the people I know at my school who in the future, in the couple years next year, who could be able to make the all-metro team, just not make it. And I know how it feels really horrible. It's like a slap in the face. Like I poured my whole heart in blood, sweat, and tears literally for 4 years to play basketball at Lincoln, where I didn't get too much support, but I still stayed. I could have, like you said, I could have gone somewhere else. We could have transferred anything so that I could have that recognition, but I stayed and I did everything for this. And then for the Metro to not even, for me to not even make honorable mention or second team, it's just a slap in the face. Like I've done all this work in this senior year. That's when you get to enjoy the fruits of your labor and I get to play in the MoCan game, all the stuff that comes your senior year. For this not to come is just a slap in the face to me. And I just feel that I don't want this feeling to happen to anybody else. So I just want to be a representative in speaking for the IL or anybody else who is just not a senior yet, or even who was a senior but didn't make it. I just feel like I just want to represent them. So I don't want to make this all about me, but I want everyone to know that this is about all the other kids this year, in the next 5 years, who have this opportunity, that someone needs to solve this and get this taken care of, because it's not fair and it doesn't feel good at all.
That is awesome. As we wrap up, I just want to say one thing. It's not a slap in the face, because to be recognized to be nominated to be a McDonald's All-American is much better than to be selected on the KCMSD Metro selection team. Let's not get it twisted. We're just saying we want to be recognized for the fruits of our labor. In closing, I want to hear what Sean D has to say on the end. He's also a student at Lincoln, and we value his opinion. Thanks so much for being with us, Sean.
I think her missing the Metro team is with the pattern of her career, the success. When there's that chip missing, it kind of gives the appearance that there was, like, the rest is almost a sham, that she didn't stay consistent. And when they see through the good grade point average and the good success, the lack of that last piece, it gives
The missing puzzle piece.
Yeah, it almost propels our Lincoln's reputation of not rising to expectations of other schools surrounding. So
go ahead, Dad. I think that's his nerve with that.
It's not entirely a personal pride thing, so they can put the plaque on their wall.
But it's
It's something. So people who don't know the entire story.
If I understand what I think my son is trying to say, it's something that we discuss all the time at our house, that when she gets snubbed, and I will use that word snubbed because I feel like she got snubbed, it almost justifies the stereotype that exists about the inner city schools.
Exactly.
When she doesn't make it, when she doesn't complete that cycle of 4 years and then getting that recognition that she earned, that almost sends the message to everybody who looks down on the IL that they don't have anything to offer.
That's your best player, but they can't. But that player can't make.
Even your
2
best
years in a
player
row.
didn't make what our players did, and there is a stereotype. Again, if we start this discussion and get serious about it, there is a stereotype that exists concerning the suburban teams versus the entire IL league. That we are underachievers, that we're not disciplined, that we're inferior academically and athletically.
Can I get some last words from the parents, and then we're going to wrap up here?
I wanted to jump back real quick to when you asked who's accountable.
Yes, ma'am.
And who we can get involved and how do we solve this. I don't want to overlook, because you have 2 students here who do have 2 parents in the home and are very supportive. Sean's parents were always at the games as well. But there is a gap. There is a gap in the urban schools. And I noticed it in the IL. There will be games where there is hardly anyone in the stands. We need more parental support. We need parents who will stand up like this and say,
Exactly.
my kid is important and my kid deserves this.
I would like to thank all of my guests today for being with me, Tennille, and we're here with Cascade Sports. Thank you all and have a wonderful evening.
CMG wants you to always remember, the victory we call success goes to the best prepared. When you invest in your community, you're really just investing in yourself. Thanks.